But we start with big developments from England ahead of the Euros. James Maddison, we now know, has left the camp after being told he won't be in that final squad for Euro 2024.
Yeah, Gareth Southgate needs to cut his provisional 33-player squad down to 26 by Saturday, and Maddison has departed. Well, his wait for a major tournament appearance with England goes on. He made the final 26 for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, but he failed to make an appearance before the quarter-final exit.
It's been a bit of a contrasting season for the midfielder at Tottenham. He started really well, 3 goals and 5 assists in his first 9 league games. And a 3-month injury in the middle of the season halted his progress, and his form has not really recovered since. The only Premier League goal contribution he made since March the 10th, they came against Burnley and Sheffield United, both relegated, of course.
Well, for more reaction to Maddison's omission, we can speak live to our senior reporter, Rob Dorsett. And Rob, we know Southgate had to make cuts. How unlucky do you feel Maddison is?
Well, look, Gail, I think he is very unlucky, James Maddison. But the truth is, this doesn't come as a huge surprise. I think you have to say the fact that James Maddison won't make the final 26. It's devastating for him. I know how much he wants to play for England and how committed he is to the national team. Just look at what happened at Qatar in the World Cup. There was a huge public clamour for him. He was playing that well for Spurs, for him to be included in the final 26 for that tournament. And he was included. Gareth Southgate took him to Qatar, but he picked up an injury whilst training. Arrived with an injury and never really shook it off and didn't get to play a single minute of football in the World Cup. And he was absolutely devastated by that. But from what I was told, he was still a fantastic influence around the England camp. He was geeing on the rest of the lads. He was very positive around them. That big smile that we've got used to seeing was in evidence right across every day of that England camp. And Gareth Southgate really values that. But at the end of the day, you've seen the stats that you've just shown there. He wasn't playing well enough for Spurs to automatically demand a place in what is the most competitive position in this England squad. I mean, if you look at it, the fact is there's Maddison, there's Phil Foden, there's Bukayo Saka, there's Jared Bowen, there's Eber Eze, there's Anthony Gordon, and there's Jack Grealish. And I think that's significant. Nobody's mentioned Jack Grealish this morning or last night. And the fact that James Maddison isn't going to be in the final 26, I think you have to say, makes it much more likely that Jack Grealish will be in the final 26. Both he and Maddison are considered for England as straight left wingers. Maddison doesn't get the chance to play number 10 very often because he's competing with Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden there, and even Eze potentially as well in this case. So off the left wing, they're both very similar players, aren't they? Attack defenders, win free kicks in and around the box. So bad news for James Maddison, but potentially very good news for Jack Grealish, I think you have to say.
Yeah, good shout. And Grealish did really well, I think, when he came on at St James's Park, didn't he, Rob? Rob, let me ask you a little question, right? Unplanned. But you know more about England and you're closer to the squad than anyone. Your choices yesterday, you had your greens, your reds and your ambers, which we had a good fun looking through. Any changes in your mind? I mean, obviously we know one of your ambers is gone now in Maddison. Are there any of your reds you think might sneak into the green? Is there anything? I just want to know, because obviously every minute and every hour things are changing. Is your mindset changed?
No, look, my mindset hasn't changed. But look, we have to point out we're not party to the fitness reports, the medical reports that Gareth Southgate is. And I think because of the number of injuries he's got in this England squad, particularly in defence, some of those decisions might be left until the very last minute. Because it's a difficult juggling act, isn't it? If he needs to take an extra defender or two to cover for potentially Harry Maguire or Luke Shaw, who hasn't played any football since the middle of February, might that mean he can't take as many attacking options? So I think you can see how complex and how much of a juggling exercise this is for the England manager. But yeah, have a look at the Sky Sports app, because I did stick my neck out there and suggest the players that I thought wouldn't make it. And actually, there are reports elsewhere that Gerald Quansah and Curtis Jones might have already been called from the squad. We're checking those out, of course. But they were on my red list, and I did expect them probably not to make the final cut of 26. Gerald Quansah, Curtis Jones, James Trafford and Adam Wharton are the 4 players other than James Maddison now who I think might struggle. And if we're right in that regard, there aren't many decisions left for Gareth Southgate to make, you have to say. Only 2 more left to face the big cull, if you like, and that's Saturday morning. We expect the England squad to be announced publicly on Saturday morning. The big calls that are left, well, even despite losing a winger, I think Southgate has some big choices to make between Anthony Gordon, Jarrod Bowen, and as I mentioned, Jack Grealish. It might be only one or two of those can be included in the squad. How fit is Anthony Gordon? Remember, he's got that ankle problem, which meant he couldn't feature at all at St James's Park at his home ground against Bosnia. Then up front, is there space for Ivan Toney and Ollie Watkins to go alongside Harry Kane? That's still a really big call for the England manager. And then in defence, we're talking about cover for Harry Maguire. It could well be Gerard Branthwaite or Lewis Dunk, possibly not both of them. So yeah, I don't think this has changed my view at all, Pete, in terms of the red light options. But as I say, it's a bit of a guess because we're not party to what Gareth Southgate has been saying. But all of this news dribbling out now is interesting because the big announcement was supposed to be Saturday morning. The fact that Gareth Southgate is drip feeding some of this information to the players, as appears to be the case, in advance of that, might make that a bit of a damp squib, by the way, that announcement on Saturday morning. But it's the England manager's way, isn't it? He hates this part of the job. He wants to do it as humanely as possible, taking the emotional stability of the players into account. So the fact that he's talking to them individually now and giving them an idea, I think, is significant. We don't know the circumstances of the James Maddison absence, by the way. We'll talk to Gareth Southgate at 6 p.m. in the news conference tonight. We'll get a lot of answers there, I think. I can't see any circumstances where James Maddison would have stormed out or decided he didn't want to stay. I think it would have been agreed between him and the manager that there wasn't any point in him staying because he's not going to be part of that final 26.
You've touched on it there with some of your red choices, Rob, but do you think then we're going to find out a few more names possibly today, even before tomorrow's game at Wembley?
Yeah, I think we will. And that came as a surprise to me because in England squads that have been named in the past, it has all been left to the final announcement of 26. Just to remind you of the timings there, the FA have to submit their final squad list of 26 players by 11 p.m. on Friday night. That's probably less than an hour or so after England's final warm-up game against Iceland. I think that's why the England manager has to make some decisions now and probably why he is making some of the decisions now. But then that will be made public by maybe sometime between 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock on Saturday morning. That's when we will first get official confirmation of what that squad is that he's put into UEFA. But yeah, the fact that other media outlets are reporting that Jarell Quansah hasn't made it, I think is significant. The fact that Curtis Jones is being reported as somebody who might not have made it is significant as well. I don't think there's an awful lot of room in midfield for him to be included. But yeah, the one we do know at the moment, the one we've confirmed ourselves, is James Maddison. And you can't say anything other than what a big blow it is to the Tottenham forward.
Thanks very much, Rob. It's going to be a difficult day, isn't it, for a number of those players?
Cheers, Rob. Thanks, mate.